Desireé, you said something off camera about trend spotting. Can you clarify what this is?
Sure. In the industry, there's this concept of how does one write to market? In other words, how can I write a book that is going to capture the attention of the publisher or the literary agent? So, trend spotting, like in many industries, it's just kind of looking ahead to see where the puck is going rather than where it's been so that you can be ahead and, possibly get that book deal. Now, the truth of the matter is I know a lot of literary agents. I've rubbed shoulders with them at writers' conferences, and I've asked them, what are the next trends? What are you looking for? You're here listening to authors pitch their manuscript idea to you. What is the thing that you're honestly looking for? And sometimes agents will say that I'm looking for this type of book and these types of genres, etc. But a lot of times they give you this really frustrating answer of, I knew what they need now. I wouldn't be here doing this. You can't predict that because it's so far in the future. And I think that's one of the frustrating things is because if everybody is suddenly writing books about wizard schools, right, then the last thing they want to hear is another pitch about a bunch of kids that go to a wizard school. So it's a matter of trying to figure out what is coming, what's going to be popular, in some cases 18 months to 2 or 3 years from now. That's the hard part. But in the world of trend spotting, I do think that there are some genres and there are some tropes that are very popular and are increasing in popularity. For example, I think the whole enemies to lovers type of a trope can be really good. And that goes beyond just the romance. This whole idea of you buck heads with somebody, we've all seen that trope played out again and again. And it just really feels satisfying. The horror genre and some of the different subgenres in horror is really going through a renaissance lately. And I don't know if it's just a reaction to some of the things that are happening in the world because we have so much going on with technology and AI and disruptions globally that sometimes the scary stuff gives us a weird sort of comfort. And speaking of technology and sci-fi, I do think that a lot of the techno thrillers and the stuff where we really start understanding and seeing the ramifications of what can come about with AI and robotics and some of the things that are out there. Because as we see this happening in real life, the creatives who are out there are going to be inspired with ideas. And as a society, we want to read that. We want to kind of get an idea of what we can anticipate within the next 5, 10, even 15, 20 years. So those are a few genres that I think are going to be doing really well. And another trope that I like too is, and I think this just kind of ties into the fact that a lot of the stories that we tell nowadays are a little bit deeper and more nuanced. And the idea of that morally gray character, or the villain that turns out to be the good guy. Think of the Joker, for example, and how we just loved getting that backstory and how we saw this very comic book type bad guy. He was cliche on so many levels, and he had that deep story behind him. So when we have morally gray characters and situations, because life isn't always black and white, and I think people are responding to that now, and I think they're going to continue within the next few years.
Sure. Age of distrust and maybe spy thrillers and things like that.
Exactly.
Right. What are the biggest changes you've seen in the book market in the last few years?
The biggest changes that I've seen in the book market in the last few years, I think, is the way authentic stories are coming into their own again. And I think that's another thing that we can anticipate more so in the future. And what I mean by authentic stories is it can be everything from memoir to true crime. People are craving real stories. Think even about how the podcast world and the true crime genre complement each other. Dr. Death comes to mind. Stories like this where they started off as a true crime type podcast and then it became a series. The same thing is happening with books. documentaries. People are gravitating, I think, to real stories more than ever. There's something that's a little bit satisfying, knowing that there's reality behind it. And being able to sleuth something out, whether it's looking at the Menendez brothers and their situation, JonBenet Ramsey and her situation. I mean, some of these murders and cases go back many, many years, but there's a real fascination behind them. And then, yeah, memoirs and some other true crime type genres as well, and stories that are based on real people. I feel that nowadays, with so much happening that's not real, from AI to deep fakes to people that are very fake online, that there's something that we crave as human beings, being able to actually slip into the skin of a real situation or real people. Ultimately, I think that's what draws us into reading any book. Take AI, for example, which can replicate a lot of things very well. It can tell me a whole story. It could probably write me a novel if I really wanted it to. But it would tend to be very vanilla and feel very trite. But when we have this contract between the reader and the writer, where as a reader, you feel like you are slipping inside the experience of that writer, even if it's fiction, you expect that coming of age story to have some kernel of truth and real authenticness underneath. The nonfiction book, same thing. You want to be guided or given advice from a real human person. So I think real people, real stories, authentic stories is something that people should definitely be looking to write more about in the near future.
Is marketing a graphic novel the same as marketing, let's say, a memoir or a novel?
All of those genres are a little bit different. So a graphic novel or comics, stories like that can tend to do really good at pop culture conventions and with that audience. Again, it all boils down to finding the right audience for it. I love graphic novels. I love, too, a lot of the crossover that we're seeing between video games and television and books. I mean, it's multimedia, right? It all crosses over. So if you're going to be doing something with a graphic novel or something like that, you can tap into what the audience's habits are. What are they doing? Where are they going? As a general rule, they might be younger. I know a lot of graphic novelists who will use Kickstarter to fund it because there's so much work that goes into it. And if you can get enough backers behind it, then you've got not only proof of concept, but you've got your first run, your first orders already in place. So there's some really clever things that people can do in the world of graphic novels and in that whole pop culture type space, so to speak.
Right. Ronda Rousey, I think she was doing that, but maybe, okay, yeah, I'm sure she's one of many, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think that whole, the idea of getting backers and getting people to support you, whether it's on Patreon or Kickstarter. Again, there's a laundry list of how to go about this and how to do it. But that really just gives authors so much more options as far as their marketing. I mean, imagine being able to fund your book ahead of time. It doesn't quite lend itself quite as well to a book where it's all just a written book. There's something, I think, that's satisfying about the visual, the graphics that go along with it. A lot of times people can publish a few initial pieces of art or concepts to go along with it to get people riled up and excited about backing it.
And to that, if an author is going to launch a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Seed and Spark, do they have to be in their video because they can't just use a book trailer, or maybe they can?
Oh, I think that depends upon the author and what they want to do. There's oodles of different ways to create the different tiers and levels for people to do it. So yeah, as long as somebody's comfortable in front of the camera and that's what they want to do, then they certainly can. But they could do something graphically, a whiteboard type thing. They could do some kind of animation if they don't feel comfortable in front of the camera. It all depends. It's kind of like doing short films or doing a film project. You might have the ability to shoot a short or do a small trailer, and even a book trailer sometimes can be done, even with a limited budget, just to give people an idea of what the vision is all about so that they can understand what the author or authors are putting out there and decide if it's something for them that they want to see come to fruition.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book story questions.